But we'll go ahead and get started. Dr. Simeon Hein on crop circles, and we'll let him do his intro and talk about what he does. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alejandro. And thanks to New Thought Forum for sponsoring this tonight. It's really interesting how these topics that we're interested in, it really seems to have a context. I've really felt in the past couple of weeks that there's really been kind of an energy shift because we've had a lot of very important UFO sightings around the world. And stuff that's really kind of undeniable. And lots of witnesses. We have very kind of exciting kind of political contests going on. And it really feels to me like there's a kind of a change in the energy. And it's very consistent with what we see from the crop circles, as you'll see as I do the lecture, because it seems like there's kind of an integration going on. That's my gut feeling. There's sort of integration going on. And just as we kind of had, from some of our perspectives, kind of 8 years of darkness and negativity, kind of political level, it seems that there's kind of a rubber band effect, and it's kind of shooting back the other way and into very exciting possibilities that none of us know what's going to happen over the next couple of months. And that opens things up. And then you have these UFO sightings. It really feels to me like we're getting closer to disclosure in a significant way, just from the energy. And that has a lot to do with how these crop circles work. I first encountered these 10 years ago going to run on tours. I met him at a UFO conference down in Denver in that round hotel building near 58th Street or so. Remember that one?
Yeah, that was,
And I met him out there in his crop circle lecture. I just learned remote viewing the year before from Courtney Brown, and we viewed some crop circles, and I thought, I got to figure out who's making these, because when I did the remote viewing, I got a lot of really strange results that really didn't resolve themselves, even after I'd seen the picture of that triple Julia set from Milk Hill from 1996 and the Stonehenge Formation of that spiral. And so I thought, I'm going to listen to this talk, and I'm going to figure it out within, half hour, who makes them why and what they mean. And then Ron went there, and he'd gone there for a couple of years in a row, started in 1991 or 92. And it was even more of a mystery after his lecture, because I found out about all the anomalies and strange things and strange experiences Ron had around the crowd circles, knew much less about who or what was making them, and so forth. So I went with Ron on his tour in 1997, and the first one I ever went in with that big so-called Coke snowflake by Slippery Hill, that six-sided formation. Yeah, it was really huge. I got to tell you, when I walked in, it felt like you're walking in a spaceship. I mean, it had that really precise geometry, and it was huge, and pretty much as perfect as it gets, across the sky. And you really felt like something had landed in the field, and you were in where the imprint had been of the ship. That was the feeling it gave to me. And so that was my introduction to crop circles, and I really kind of got hooked. And then I began to see that there were these weird phenomena going on around the crop circles. I mean, I got to tell you, someone educated in sociology, statistics teacher, you really think this is kind of urban legend? Honestly, this is how we're trained. You can read books today written by social scientists. Roswell as kind of American folklore. Roswell is kind of urban legend, and you could pass it off that way in academia very convincingly. There's evidence to kind of make that case. I don't think that's what it is. I think something really happened there. We have a lot more evidence even this year than we did last year. But, that's the way academics treat this. So I actually thought, come on, people want to go here because they spend so much time they have to create these stories, until I began seeing camera failure, device failure, batteries not working in my own devices. At first, other people told me about their experiences, and they seemed like it really happened to them. And then I started seeing mine. And that began this long quest into what are these shapes, and what are they doing, and who's making them, and why, and what is it all about. Okay, so let's take a look at what we think is going on there. It's really more of a mystery now than it was 10 years ago. I think it has a lot to do, first of all, with shape and resonance. This is not really a foreign idea. Any of us who kind of listen to the lectures that we have at New Thought Forum and other conferences and so forth, you're familiar with the idea of phi ratios and pi ratios and sacred geometry. We know that we're built around sacred shapes in our bodies. An inner ear, and the heart is in a spiral, and basically plants and living things are evolved around spiral types of shapes. And so we find a lot of crop circles like that too. There is a symmetry and a precision to crop circle geometry that is quite simply stunning. It's more stunning than the air because you see the whole thing. When you're walking around and you really can't see what it looks like. They all kind of look alike from walking around from the ground because you can only see so far, and it's all kind of like a bunch of wheat going over in different ways. Once have their own particular specialness, shape. You can feel it. And the question is, how does that create this energy we feel? Is it purely subjective? Is it just eye candy? Or is there something really going on there scientifically that we can talk about that indicates that this is really kind of an energetically active shape? And what type of energy would that be if it was? And that's what we're looking at now. This is one of the first ones that Ron went into with our static electricity meter, where it just blew up the meter. Batteries, first high readings and batteries were gone. Now, if that happens the first time, you think, oh, it just happened my batteries were old. You can invent stories about why batteries fell. But when you see it happen the next day, and the next day, and, lots of different circles after a while, but it never happens just walking around here or anywhere else, then you know that you've got some sort of process going on. So we've had all these different shapes over the years. And, every year they get more spectacular.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest one ever. This is Mill Hill from 2001. And this one, had hundreds of circles, like 400, I believe, 800 feet across. And people said when you stood in it, you couldn't even see the whole thing. It was just, your ear, you didn't even see the extent of it. So they're very large, they're very complex, star-like ones, and there's these kind of moire pattern ones that are built around kind of tessellated patterns. And it's increasingly complicated. Many of you know Peter Sargent, who's taken a lot of photos of these and kind of really done a good job of making it look so great. It works in a little bit. And so all these different shapes over the years. This is the first one I ever saw remotely in my remote viewing session. That what I got in my session, by the way, when we remote viewed it, was that there were anomalous energies, strange symbols, some feeling of extraterrestrial energy. That's kind of a mystery when you're done. What does that mean?
Yeah, right.
Energy kind of exchanges and so forth. This one also affected static meter quite a bit, blew it out in one. This is one near Stonehenge. Now I talked to one of the guards there who was there the day this happened. And he said he says he was looking and it wasn't there, and then he looked and it was there. They're always looking around. There's no way. That's what this story was. And then some of the more recent are for advertisements too. They look better when you blur your eyes a bit, and you can see this is the orange one for orange one. So people have kind of figured out ways. I wouldn't call this a crop circle, would you? It's more of a field art, field pattern. And this is the interesting thing: which shapes create energy? Which create static changes? It doesn't have to be because it doesn't affect static. Which affect our batteries? Which affect cameras? It isn't these stylized patterns that seem to have the most energetic effect. I'll tell you, it's spiral shapes over the square ones any day of the week that seem to have the most energy. And another little clue here, it's the ones that have a lot of little nested circles within a bigger circle that seem also to create a lot of energy. It's kind of fractal type of pattern, repeating circles over and over, but not all the same size, different size. This is the alien head and disc from 2002. Like I said.
Was that real or was that?
We'll get to that in a moment. I mean, it looks, somebody did this. I have no clue, but it kind of has that flavor. But I got to tell you, back into the 90s, we had no clue one way or another who or what was doing this, any of them. And it was a while before we actually began to have some ideas about that. This was the face of some sort of rock star. If you blur your eyes a bit again, you can see this a little clearer. Yeah. And by the way, someone was able to identify the alien as being an alien from a Star Trek episode, presenting a disc to Captain Kirk or something like this in the previous slide. And this was apparently some well-known English rock star. So, if you can believe that. Yeah. A little contrast there. A little look at the face on Mars, a little contrast. You can see that it's a face. Because those NASA photos, they do this this kind of high-res filtering, and then basically put a pile of rocks when they want to make it look that way. But if you blur it, then it'll look like a face. So it kind of does affect it. These are the Chill Bolton messages that people said were a response to Arecibo 1974. Remember these by the radio observatory, and people kind of even decoded what the message said. The original message was sent out on, I think, Voyager spacecraft, and it had chemical elements and different mathematical ideas that would communicate to other civilizations what our science was based on, who we were. And then this so-called response came back, which had a little gray alien instead. instead of a human face. So this costs quite a